During the pandemic, many lost their jobs due to government restrictions, layoffs, and cutbacks. What's next? What do you do now? Our next guest, Craig Colby, had a similar experience, lost his job, realized he needed legal and financial help as well as job search help. So Craig put together a website with people addressing all of the above issues, and he joins us now virtually to tell us more about that. Good morning. Thanks for joining us, Craig.
Thank you so much for having me on.
I mentioned a similar experience. This was pre-pandemic, but you had a high-profile job with a high-profile media company. What happened?
They moved my job to Washington, D.C., and it made perfect sense. I understood it. They were great to me about it. Had a fair package. It was as nice a breakup as you could have, but it was still a gut punch. Right?
Yeah, you were a top producer, executive producer with Blue Ant Media, a very high-profile company producing great documentaries. Do you miss that, by the way?
Well, I certainly miss a regular paycheck, and I certainly, and I miss the people, and I miss a lot of the things that came with that job. But I've had a lot of great experiences since then.
So there's many steps, and your website, Colby Vision, you have this career recourse, and it takes people impacted through the pandemic, through all the steps, and things you're just not prepared for. First of all, when you get that gut punch, the settlement, you're vulnerable. You don't know, okay, but you have expert help on this website in terms of what's fair and how to negotiate that.
Well, there's a couple of options, and we don't tell you exactly how to negotiate it. I have an HR specialist who talks about kind of what to expect, and then there's somebody else who talks about some less expensive legal options. Like
Legal Shield, which is now in Canada, and
yes,
because it can be an expensive process, but worthwhile depending on the situation. So once all the dust settles on that business, there's so many things to deal with, including your own psyche, because you mentioned it's a gut punch. And how do you handle that? Self-care.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. Like I said, I had a great breakup, but I still had to tell my kids their dad didn't have a job anymore. And there's a lot that you deal with your own sense of well-being. So much of you is tied to the job itself. So how do you deal with that? So we've got a few people on the site that talk about different ways you can take care of yourself through this process. And you need to do that because it's hard to get back on your feet when your legs are still shaking.
And it's hard to get back to the groove when you've had a successful career for so long, and then it just all goes away and you have to start over. So many things have changed, and you just don't know how to navigate it.
Yeah, we've got a lot of people on the site who can talk about that. I mean, first off, just take a look at your skills. Like if you've been around for a long time, maybe you don't want to be in that industry anymore. You can do an self-assessment on your skills. Are they transferable somewhere else? Even getting back in the game, what does your resume have to look like now? We've got someone to talk about that. Can you go into consulting? We've got someone who can talk about that. And even something as simple as video conferencing. There are a lot of little tips in there. As a matter of fact, I promoted one today on LinkedIn, how to video conference successfully so that you're going to make a good impression.
Yeah, because it is so key, and again, the landscape has changed so much. You also have other expert tips on, like there's tax implications as well with your situation changing.
If you get a big settlement, if you're lucky enough to get that, it can push you into a higher tax bracket. So, what do you do about that? That's something I wish I'd asked more questions on. I started my own business and incorporated, which turned out to be good, but may not have been the best decision immediately. So we have a few people that talk about how you can lower your tax burden. If you have some debt already and you have a mortgage, there's a way you can handle debt better. So there's a lot of little tips in there, and even investment. How should you invest that money that you have in this time and still have some money coming into you from it?
Yeah, if you want to reinvent yourself, what is the first step? You mentioned skill sets. Assessing that and how you can apply it elsewhere is the first thing to do?
Yeah. The first thing is, you have to ask yourself a lot of questions. I mean, a great one is, what am I good at? Because that's what you're going to get paid for. But also, what do I like doing? What do I like doing that's transferable? And then you sort of scour the field to see what's available there. One of the pieces of advice that was given to me by one of the guests was, ask your friends what you're good at, because they will know not just your skills at work. It's not just your skills at work, but what life skills you've acquired and what are your great traits. So those are some things to look at. I would give you one example from television. I know a lot of control room producers who've lost their jobs. Control room producers deal with everybody in the whole production. They are, project managers. So that's one way you would think of transferring your skills.
Yeah, that's a good point. And, because sometimes, we can have those blinders on and not realize our full worth and the potential that's out there. Great advice and more great tips on this website. Again, it's part of colbyvision.net career recourse. Craig Colby, thanks for sharing with us this morning.
Yes, thank you very much. Just search for career recourse and you'll find it.
And we'll link that up at chh.com as well. Thanks again, Craig.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the boost.